Hey guys, you got the Dude Man with you once again, and I'm very amped up about today's project. I'm going to be working on putting some new pickups in a bass, and it happens to be this bass right here. This is a Fender Squier 40th anniversary jazz bass, and the pickups in it I think they're pretty decent for just passive electronics. I was surprised how much tone I was getting out of this with passive pickups. So I think they're the same pickups that they use in regular jazz, Fender jazz basses. I'm not sure about that, but I'll do a little research and get back with you on. So I decided to go with EMGs on this. And I like the passive thing, but I realized a long time ago that I'm really an active pickup or active electronics kind of player. I just like that extra control, extra bass, extra treble, more volume, and it just suits my style of playing. So I wanted to change these out and see how they sound with the new pickups. So I'm going to go through the whole process with you. The first thing you should know is go on the EMG website. If you feel like getting EMGs, if you think they're right for you, then go on the EMG website and pick out what you like, what you think fits your style the best. And you'll see all different measurements for every pickup they make. And you want to make sure that those pickups are going to fit in your instrument. So they'll give you the width, the depth, the length, how high they are, and these things all make a difference, even where the screw holes are located. So you make sure all that stuff is just right, so when you get them, you don't have to make any modifications. Now I'm going to have some modifications on this bass simply because I've got to add a battery box. So it's going to be active electronics when I'm done with it, and I think it's going to sound pretty darn good. And we're going to do some playing when it is done. But for right now, this video is just showing you what you can expect if you do a pickup change. Okay, let's get on with it. The first thing I'm going to do is take the strings off of this, but I also want to show you what I got from EMG. I went with the EMG J pickups, and I went with a BTC preamp. And the guys at EMG recommended that I go with the BTC because the way I like my bass set up is one volume and a pickup blend knob, and then I'm opted for a stack pot. So I'll have, for a tone, I'll have the bass knob will be the big knob on the bottom, the smaller one on top, that's going to be for the treble. Okay guys, we'll be moving on right now. Okay, so here we are. This is what I got in the mail from EMG. This is the pickups, this is the BTC preamp, and they sent me a bunch of EMG stickers, which I will put to good use. Now we're going to open it up and see what's inside. So what we got in here is our two J pickups, and I'm going to take these out, and in here they're going to give you all the pots and connector and some screws, so it's all in there. And here, now you got a whole separate set of pots. It looks like they send you, you get a set of pots if you're just doing this. You get a set of pots if you're just doing this. The other thing I just wanted to show you real quick was I ended up getting this. This is a battery box, and I got it on Amazon. And this is from a company called Music Lily. One word, Music Lily, like the flower. And I guess it should be a decent quality one. I could have bought a cheaper one, but I liked what I saw in here. We'll take a quick look at this in case you have to do a battery box too. That's going to be a whole... Routing out the body is going to be a whole nother thing. Gets a little nerve-wracking when you're doing that kind of stuff. I've done a lot of woodwork over the years, so I'm not too worried about it. And if I screw it up, hey, the bass isn't real expensive bass anyway. So let's see what we got from Music Lily. Okay. I guess it looked like a tight setup. I like the fact that they put this foam on here so things aren't slapping around. I like these type of connections in here. So rather than the white wires or the plug things that seem to screw up sometime, and it had a nice simple little latch on it. So that should be fairly easy, and I'll show you how I'm going to do it, but hopefully that's the right way. Hey guys, okay, here's what we got. We got the strings off, and I started with taking the bell plate out. That's what's known as a bell plate because it's in the shape of a bell, in case you didn't know. And then I took the pick guard off. So you got your pickup here, and this has to get cut or unsoldered to remove it. And then this one comes out from here, and we'll unsolder everything, take all this apart. Here's a couple quick tips for you. What I found, whether you're working on a car or a guitar or whatever, these little magnetic screw pans are great so you don't lose your screws. So that's magnetic, and it's got a magnetic bottom, so you could stick it on a piece of metal, and or I just have it on the side here so I don't lose any screws, which is very helpful. And here's another tip that you've got to look out for. I had an old screwdriver, and I was taking out these screws here, and I noticed that the tip is kind of boogered up here. It's not a great brand new screwdriver. But when you're doing this, make sure you got a really good screwdriver with a good handle. I also have this other screwdriver which has a good tip, but it's a jeweler's screwdriver, and it's really hard to turn because these are set right into the wood, so they're kind of hard to turn. And I started stripping this one out, so I had to take the jeweler's screwdriver and take it out the rest of the way. And even that was giving me a hard time. And then I found a better screwdriver in my box of tricks, which I proceeded to lose it. I don't know where it is right now, but it's oh, here it is. It's got a good tip, good pointy tip, because these are real small screws. And when you start screwing it out, you want to put a lot of down pressure on it and turn it slow and make sure it's unscrewing. As it comes up, it'll get a little easier. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is take apart all this stuff, and we'll go from there, and then look into how all this is done and the directions. Okay, guys, I've got another couple things I want to show you that's very important. You see, we got everything taken apart, and this is the new pots set up in the direction I want them, which is volume, tone, which is bass on the bottom, treble on the top, like I said, and this is the balance knob for the pickups. I prefer a one volume system, and then of course the jack. Now on the bottom, what you might come across is when you go to put it in, some things might not fit in this cavity perfectly. At first I had these pots going sideways, I guess you would call it, and I had to put them more in line with that cavity so they would fit there. And even though I did that, this is about an 1/8 inch too far that way, and I'm butting it all the way up to this route line here. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to route this a little bit just to make that fit in there. This one wire here, this is going to the bridge. There's a little wire, it goes through a hole all the way to the bridge, and it's not even connected to the bridge. I took the bridge off, and the wire is just laying under it, but because it's tightened down, it's not going anywhere. It's got good contact. That was connected to here, and then we had this other wire. It was a ground going into here for the other pickup. So anyway, what I got to do is I got to pull off this blob of ground and then route that out. And then we're going to need to route on the back side, somewhere over here, the battery box. So we'll get to that later. The other thing I wanted to tell you that is a good thing to know, I've been doing a lot of mechanical things for many years, so I understand like lock washers and hardware in general. I thought the lock washer was going to be put under the nut here, but the way you put the washers is they have you put a nut first on the stem of the pot, then the lock washer, then the bell plate. On top of the bell plate, it's a flat washer and another nut, and that's going to hold it nice and tight. They don't say that in the directions. I actually contacted a lady at EMG who handles this kind of stuff, and she told me that's how you do it, and I was kind of surprised, but that's cool. It's good to know. And the final thing I wanted to tell you, another important thing, is I'm going to read it right from her email. For the wiring, the way I said I wanted to have it is the volume, tone, balance, that's the pickup balance, and the jack. Well, she says for wiring, you do not have to wire it with the volume at the end of the chain. That's what they tell you to do, to wire it so the volume, if I was to wire it in line, it would be right next to this. So the volume would be down here, and up here you'd have either the balance or the tone, whatever, but that's kind of odd. So I didn't want it that way, and she said it's good to wire it that way so the volume is being boosted after the EQ adjustments. So that's very important. The other thing is, just because it's wired that way doesn't mean you have to mount it that way. You can mount it in your preferred wiring order and mount that volume pot closer to you, because that's what I'm going to be using more than anything, is the volume, then the tone. Okay, I'm getting a call, so we'll say goodbye for now. I was working on the routing just now, and what we got here, I'm going to, hopefully you could see this good enough, but let's see, we'll get to it in the light as best I can. Now this one, I put the box right here, and I was trying to get an idea of where I want it in relation to the wires. The wires are going to come out this end, so I want it over here, kind of near that, and they're going to go to the pickups, they're going to go to the pots. I don't know about the pickups, but they're going to all the pots, so I want it someplace close here. Now this is a ground wire. Now you can see I got the bridge off. You can see that ground wire comes out right here. So I didn't want to hit that. I don't think I need it from what the people told me at EMG, but I figured I'd leave it in there. They said it's okay to leave it in there. So what I did is I measured from here to this line, and I made a mark, and then I measured from here to there, and I transferred those marks to the back. And what I did is I made a template for this, and let's see where I got it. Here it is. I made a template for this. Now, you don't want it to go to all the way to the outer lip, because the outer lip covers any imperfections on your cuts, your routing. And I don't have a router, so I did it with this thing right here. This is called a multi-tool, and I got a wood blade on there, and it was kind of hairy, but we got it done. Anyway, so that's the size of the cut that I was doing. And the other thing with this battery box is there's a little nub here. Got these little nubs here. It looks like it's made specifically for one specific use or one product, you know. And then here it's got this other lip here sticking down, so I had to measure from here over to there. I didn't want to start cutting and grinding all this stuff off, so I just I went and made it fit into my routing. Now it looks a little sloppy now, yeah. I still got to clean it up. But when I was using this, I had it set too high at first, and the thing bounced out of there and boogered up my guitar a little bit. Like I said, this is an inexpensive secondhand guitar. It's not perfect, but I would have preferred that it didn't happen, but it did, and it's not real bad. I can fix it up. And the blades I had were bouncing around a little bit, and I had the corners rounded so it would match this, and or actually go around these little things here. And when I put the blade in, the blade was a little bigger than I would have liked, and it over here it overshot the line, put a little extra line in there. So I got a little wood filler in there for now. It'll be fine. And I just touched up the edge with some Sharpie, and it'll be good once I can get all this cleaned up really good so you won't even notice. So you could see the step down that I had to do here, right? So that's the step where it allows for this stuff to sit in there. I had to put this other little notch in there for this little nub sticking out, so it sits all the way flat. But now it's in there, and there's 4 holes in there for screws, so you can screw it in to the body. And what I did is I pre-drilled it. I marked them off, and I pre-drilled it here. And I actually had 4 little screws that'll fit in there. So once that's done, you know, I'm not going to put this in because I got to wire it first. Then I'll feed it through the holes, and then I'll finish up what I'm doing. Okay, so that's it for today, and I'm gonna go get me some dinner. Okay, guys, here we are again at Studio X, and I got the bridge back on. I did go back and forth with the tech from EMG a few times on a few different things, and one thing in here was there's a piece of wire, it's a ground wire that comes from the cavity, comes through here. Well, it's not needed with the EMGs. So she said you can leave it in there, and if you want, in case you have a problem or something, maybe you're gonna, you know, maybe you would need it, but I doubt it. So she said just leave it taped off in here. You could leave it in here, which is what I did. A couple other things. With my old pickups, they had these big rubber chunks on there, and it looks like this is probably gonna have to get like cut in half. These were sitting there sticky, and were on the bottom of my pickups. And if I just put these in, it's gonna be, I think it's gonna be too low. If I put them in with it, it's gonna be too high. So that's something I have to figure out. The other thing here is, it is a tight fit in here. And so what I found is, well, the only routing I had to do in the cavity is I had to cut this down, because the volume pot here, that's as close as I can get it. And so I just had to cut that out. It was no big deal. It took, you know, a couple seconds and it was done. I got a couple, well, I got one of these zip ties in here to tie off all the wires, and then I was still having trouble getting it in there. So what I noticed is it was just the wires would pop out a little bit. So I just got a piece of tape and to hold them in place while I drop it in. And then once I got that settled, it goes flat now. So I'm ready to button this down. I'm going to tell you another problem I had that you might have the same thing come up in your situation. Well, when you're these connectors they got are excellent. It's so easy to just follow their diagram and plug them in. I thought that was going to be tricky, but everything is plugged in. The only thing that I had to solder is for the battery box on the back, and I'll show you that when I'm done with everything. So I had to just cut off the, I think I already threw it out, but it was a standard 9-volt battery connector, and that's what came with this. And I just had to cut that off, strip the wires back, and solder them to the battery box. And that was a piece of cake. It was 5 minutes and it was done. So everything's going pretty good. So the one thing I was going to tell you about that I did have a problem with, and the tech at EMG, she said to go ahead and test this before you button everything up. And I said, well, that's an excellent idea. So I got it like this, I plugged it in, turned my amp on, and what you got to do with pickups, these are magnetic pickups, is when you got your amp on and everything, you just touch it with a metal tip, like I use just a small screwdriver, and you hear, and you could tell if the volume is on, you could tell if the balance is set right, which it was, everything. I mean, at first it wasn't working, and what I found out is one of these quick connectors, and it says it, in fact it's this one right here on the, let's see, that's the BTC control. It says it right in the diagram, and it says note that this one is reversed for whatever reason, probably because I'm using the single volume, whatever. But so I just had to take that one off. I put it back on the other way, and bing bang zoom, it's working. It's working now. So I just got to put this back in, and I'm going to button everything up. So that's it, man. On to the next part of the process, which is setting these at the right height, and then we'll get back with you. So what I did with the pickups here is I measured the depth on these, and my new ones, the EMGs, are about a 1/4 inch deeper than the originals, and that's why this spacer is holding it out way too far. So what I did is I did a measurement on the old ones and the new ones, and I decided I got to take 3/8 of an inch off of this rubber spacer, and so I cut the bottom of this off. I left the sticky side, cut this side here, and I'm going to try it before I cut the second one. Okay, guys, you made it to the final chapter of the EMG J pickup swap out, and I appreciate that. So I'm just going to tell you the last final things here. Pickups. I had to adjust the pickups because when I first played it, I noticed I wasn't hearing the D and the G strings very good, not as good, not even. So I was actually doing a rehearsal for a recording session, and I stopped and I took a few minutes and just adjusted the pickups here to put them closer to these strings, the D and the G strings, and I brought the other side down a little bit, and that seemed to fix the problem. The other thing I did was, a lot of times when I'm playing, I'm kind of a sloppy player and my hand is all over the place here, and I'll whack the volume knob, and it was turning kind of easy, and I kept changing the volume because I'm kind of a, all over the place player. So what I did to fix that is I took just a small O-ring and I put it under the knob and tightened it right down. So now it's a little harder to move, not hard, but it's a little, doesn't move quite as easy. So that fixed that. And on the back, the battery box, it doesn't look bad from where you're at, but I still see a little notches from where I routed out, and I still got to take this back out. I'm going to put a little plastic wood in there because that other stuff I put in didn't work out very good. It was old and it just didn't work. So I got some brand new plastic wood. I'm just going to do the corners there, sand them down a little bit and paint them. And then the other thing is I got to take the battery box back out because I notice it's sitting up just a little bit. So it's sitting on some kind of ridge in there. So I'm going to find the high spot in there and just grind it down a little bit and put everything back in. And it should be done, finito. Okay, so now I'm just going to do a little playing through the amp. We'll get it hooked up and check it out. one thing I wanted to tell you, that when I first got this done and I was trying it out and I wasn't real happy with the sound, I'm like, well, it should sound better than this. And then I remembered I had my preamp set for the passive pickups. So I went in there and dialed in my proper preamp setting, and man, it just, the bass came to life. So if you do this job, go ahead and reset your preamp. And if you're not, when you're all done, reset your preamp. It takes, about 5 seconds. So it's worth doing it every time you play, really. If you're changing a bass or changing an amp or whatever, reset the preamp and get it dialed in just right, and you'll have a better tone. And listen, just remember, when you have a great tone, you're going to find yourself playing better. That's just the way it is. If you really got a nice tone that you're happy with, your amp, your speakers, your bass, your pickups, everything comes together, and you got that great sound, you're going to be playing better. It's just the way it is, man. So it's worth it. It's worth it. You're not, when you're thinking about your tone, oh man, I got to turn the bass up a little bit. Oh, wait a minute, I got to cut that mid down. When you get the right tone, you set it and forget it. You're just going to be thinking about playing and not thinking about anything else. Okay, guys, thanks again. Really appreciate you. Take it easy, man. Keep on playing.